For many hundreds of years, golf was played with feathery golf balls. They're made of leather, sewn together and stuffed with feathers. This is a replica that I've made. Now, the clubs in use at the time typically were wooden headed and had long, thin wooden heads with a bit of lead in the back of them. But also, we know from early records that golfers were ordering and using iron clubs. Now, they might have used something like this, which is a very small headed iron. And you can see that it's only just slightly bigger than the ball. So if you're in some long grass, how easy was it to actually get your feathery ball back out onto the shorter grass? Well, let's have a go. Well, I managed to get that out, but only just. By the late 1840s, gutta percha was starting to be the favoured material for making golf balls. And it's a lot harder and more robust than a sewn together ball. Golfers decided that then they could start using more iron-headed clubs to play a variety of shots. Now this is a true rut iron with a very, very small head, and it's actually cupped. It's only just slightly bigger than this gutter ball. So I'm going to have a go at getting it out of the rough. Here we go, wish me luck. Now that is a not very favourable lie. Well, I just managed to get it out of the rough stuff. Now, golfers have always been very inventive and have always tried to come up with designs of clubs that would make the game easier. This club is probably the opposite of the early rut irons. It's actually what's called a mammoth niblick, and the head is probably 4 times the size of the early rut irons. It should cut through the long grass quite easily. Let's have a go. Now the ball is really quite big, so we'll see how well this goes. Well, actually, I thought it had got caught up in some grass, but it actually went about 10 yards. Maybe 15. That was really quite impressive. Well, that mammoth niblick just really surprised me how well that ball, which was really buried quite down into the thick long grass, came out. I mean, it was amazing. So I've come over here more to the green area, and I'm going to try the feathery with the old style rut iron. And then I'm going to try the Silvertown gutty, and then I'm going to try the square mesh 1920s ball. So here we go with the feathery. That actually was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Right, now I'm going to go with this early anti-shank niblick. So the head is in front of the hosel, and this dates from about 1900. So we'll have a go with the Silvertown gutter. There's my Silvertown gutta percha ball. Okay, not as good as the feathery. And then lastly, I'm going to go with the mammoth again. And let's see, now if I put this mammoth next to this early feather ball club, you'll see the differences in size of face. It is huge. Okay, now I've got my 1920s mesh ball. So whilst this was really good out of the rough, is it actually as good off the shorter grass? It's actually not too bad. And chipping's actually probably the worst part of my game, so I think I might have found something to take on the course. So I've had a go out the rough and I've had a go around the greens. Now I'm going to see how far I can hit this 1920s mesh ball with this mammoth niblick. Well, that's probably about 25 yards and it's taken quite a large divot. Now I'm going to have a go with this Silvertown gutter, which dates about 1890, and this anti-shank niblick, which dates about 1900. Now, there is quite a lot of whipping on this shaft, so I'm not quite sure whether it will survive, but we'll give it a go. Certainly more successful than the shot with the mammoth, but probably 50 yards. Okay, so a little experiment. Let's see how far I can hit my feathery golf ball with this very crude iron. I'm not hopeful. Well, quite surprisingly, it went further than the gutter, and you can see the impact mark on the face of the iron just there. So yeah, a bit off the toe, and you can also see the impact mark on the ball just there. So maybe actually irons were used for approaching the hole more than we think. Maybe they weren't just trouble clubs. So I've now got my 1920s Maxwell niblick, which I reckon I get 80 yards with using a modern ball, and I'm going to hit my feathery, my 1890s gutter and my 1920s mesh. That wasn't too bad, probably about 50 yards. Now the 1890s gutter. Went really quite well. Probably 70, might be a bit longer. Now the 1920s mesh. Probably 70, 75. But actually not that far different from what I hit a modern ball. It's amazing.